Hi everybody, today we're talking about CBAs, and specifically we're talking about the CBA that you do in second year in mathematics. So you can see here we have a few different ideas of different things that students have done previously, alright? So I know last year a lot of students worked on redeveloping the flower beds that are outside the front of the school. And so they went about measuring all the flower beds, I suppose figuring out what they could put in. They might have given themselves a budget of 2,000 or 3,000, and what plants they would put in, whether it would be anything maybe to do with eco-friendly. I think some of them put in some swings and things as well. So that was a couple of the ideas. But other ones, how much would it cost to care for a dog for a year? What is the most effective way to cycle to school? So this one's a really interesting one, doing different routes to schools, and you use a lot of Google Maps there. Should Toyota make an A90 electrical model? So if you're into cars. Is it more expensive to buy environmentally friendly products? So you can see this person, it might be into the environment and they want to inspect that. How much would it cost to go to a Chelsea game? And this person here was into farming. So which breed of dairy cow has the most milk solids? What milk will they sell for the most? What breed is the most profitable? Which breed would I recommend from my findings? So loads of different types of CBAs there, okay? We did talk about, choosing one that you're passionate about, choosing one that you're interested in, and coming up with, I suppose, a project on it. So the second year mathematical investigation, it basically falls into three parts. The first one is that you define the problem statement. So that can be like all of the ones I've just spoken about there. Should Dublin Zoo invest in a cheetah cheetah enclosure? We spoke about that one. We spoke about maybe renovating a kitchen, renovating a bedroom. Should I renovate my bedroom? Should I how much would it cost to go to a Chelsea match? So it's important here that in this part you state what your question is, or what you're investigating, or what you're investigating. The next part of the plan or the report is part B, where it says you are finding a strategy or translating the problem into mathematics. So this is when you're showing lots of different types of mathematics that you're using, all right? And of course, if you simply just do adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, that is all just operational mathematics. So that would just count as one piece of mathematics. So you might try to do statistics, as your second piece of mathematics. You might try to do geometry if you are drawing different shapes, or whatever the case is. Lots of other people are saying they're doing distance, speed and time, loads of other different types of maths that you can use. You can use algebra if that's as well what you're looking at, area and volume, so many different types of maths here, okay? But just remember that adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, they fall into just the one, so don't get caught there. So the next part of it is where you engage with mathematics to solve the problem. So this is when you are, I suppose, using maths to try and figure out the problem. And then the last part is where you report on your findings. So you interpretate your findings. So you say what you found out, whether you think it's good, whether you think it's bad, what it means, and all of that. So it goes into 4 sections. Now, obviously we as teachers, we have to mark this, all right, which is not an easy job, but we come together and we mark them all together. So all of your work will be marked in relation to the other groups as well. And you will be given, I suppose, 4 different options. So it will be yet to meet expectations, in line with expectations, above expectations, or exceptional. So they're the 4 statements that we have to use, and we do this looking at all of these different types. So this is a student-friendly marking scheme. So when you have completed, say, the first stage of your project, go back over and look at this, Have I used a statement? Have I given a statement what I'm going to do? Have I broken the problem into steps? Okay? So that would be, if you're just yet to meet expectations, you would have done both of those. In line expectations, with some help have I posed my own problem. So have you come up with something original? Have I broken that down into steps? And have I simplified the problem? Above expectations, with limited help, I have posted the problem. So this is really, you know, where you're doing lots of different work on your own, okay? With limited help, I have simplified the problem, and I have simplified the problem for exceptional to justify assumptions where appropriate. Now, I would be really hoping that we're all in this section here, because, you know, you have chosen your own idea. Okay, so by choosing your own idea and by not going with one maybe that we would do as a group, you're already in this section here, which is really positive. Okay, but I suppose it's about making sure you're in this section for all of these ones here. Okay, or definitely in this section anyway. So I can read through all of these, but it will make more sense if you just take a screenshot and go through these individually, all right? Now, any words you're not sure of, you can ask me, but things like variables, that's just things that change. So say if you are, you know, designing a garden, the length might change, the width might change, the weather might change, the temperatures might change. So that's all that means. Like, what have you decided, you know, if things change, how will that affect your project? Okay, engaging with mathematical problems. So I had followed some basic procedures. So if you're yet to meet expectations, you'll have just done basic maths. I suppose in line with expectations, you'll have suitable procedures. You'll have chosen suitable mathematics. You might have some errors in it. And this one here, we're moving up, is where you're getting your high level of precision. Okay, so where you're doing all of that. I have used symbols, visual representation, different types of language. I'm not talking about different French, German, Spanish in that case. I'm talking about mathematical language. Okay, so have you described it using good mathematical language? And have you come up with patterns, observations, solutions? And the last one is interpreting and reporting. So I would hope we're all around this stage here this week. We should be between these two stages at this point. And this is when you, like, yet to meet expectations, you just comment on your solution. But to get a higher grade, you need to, I suppose, have you discussed your ideas clearly? Have you used mathematical language to communicate your ideas? What do I mean by mathematical language? I mean all of the subjects that we've studied: area, volume, distance, speed, time, algebra, shapes, drawing, geometry. Have I used all of those, or as much as I can? Statistics. You know, I have communicated my ideas clearly in everyday language. So everyday language would be just when you're explaining it, but you mightn't be using mathematical terms. So that would get you in line with expectations. But of course, we're all pushing for this section here. So have a read of those, see have you completely broken it down. Now, a lot of people get very worked up on the layout of these. You know, how many pages should there be? What should I have on page 1? What should I have on page 2? You know, I really don't want you to, it's not, everyone's project is going to be different, okay? Everyone's project is going to involve different pieces of work, okay? So, you know, you can look through a large amount of samples, okay? I would definitely say you need to have your contents page in, okay? And, you know, this is an example of someone and their questions. You know, some draft questions. So these were some of the things they thought they might find out. They may not have found them all out by the end, but this is all in the research part where they're working towards it. Again, this person, the most effective route to take my dog on a walk. So the problem statement, so they have it here. I am trying to find out the most effective route to take my dog on a walk. Why I chose it. So that's a nice idea to put into your project. I chose it because obviously I'm interested in my dog. I walk my dog a couple of times a week, and I don't even know, you know, how much he's actually out for the walk, he or she. So you can see this person had route 1, and then they timed themselves. They brought it round. They've looked at distance. They looked at speed. They looked at time. Route 2, you can see they brought it into a different method. So this is a completely different project. It's something that they're very interested in. And you can see using a lot of maths here already. Now, so some guidance to help you on your way, okay? So your project should be between 400 and 600 words. Now, I would recommend that you do your project either on PowerPoint or on Keynote. I think that it's nicely laid out that way. But it is really important, guys, that all of your tables, graphs and charts should be handwritten. So they cannot be put, so what I would recommend is that you write them out and then you take a photograph of them and put them into your project that way, okay? So make sure your report has a structure, an introduction. This is what I'm going to find out. This is why I wanted to find out, because I'm interested in it, because I want to figure out if I can come up with a different way. How you went about it, okay? What research you did, all right? So that's super important. And then talk about the maths and then talk about your findings. Remember the 4 different methods that you have to go into and keep going back to that marking scheme. So remember that this is a mathematical investigation. What you are investigating needs to be very clear from the beginning of the report. So some people, when I asked them to send me in what their project was on, I didn't know. They didn't tell me. They told me they were going to use statistics, they told me they were going to use ratios, they told me they were going to use algebra, but they didn't tell me what the project was on, okay? So you did get that feedback. So hopefully you've come up with exactly what your project is on and that it's very clear from the beginning of the report. Okay, structure. So the report has to have a section towards finding a solution or conclusion. And use the marking scheme, so the features of quality, as a guide to make sure you are achieving top marks, all right? So going back to that student-friendly worksheet that I told you to, go back. Did I do this? Did I do all of that? Okay, so page 1 and 2, it should have your title and why you chose that project. Okay, page 3 is probably the last page that you do, and it's your contents page. So on page 4 you can find this, on page 7 you can find this, on page 9 you can find this. Okay, so that's just probably the last thing you'll do because you're obviously going to be working on, but it's important that you have that in the 3rd section. So this next page might be on assumptions. So these are things that you think to be true. So obviously if you are going to England to watch a football game, say Manchester United or whatever, there's going to be some assumptions that you're going to make. So number 1, there is going to be a football game on, okay? So it's not going to be in COVID. You are going to be able to buy tickets. Number 2, the ferries are running as normal. So these are things that, you're thinking ahead and you're thinking, well, I'm going to assume that all of this is actually okay, because obviously if there was any problems here, I wouldn't be able to go on my trip. So this is all about, I suppose, thinking ahead. If you are designing a garden, you're assuming the weather will be good. You're assuming the rainfall will be good. You're assuming the soil is in good nick. There are lots of different things that you'll be assuming. So this is just explaining to the examiner how you've thought ahead about different things about how different things might come into play. Okay, so the next section can be 2 pages long, 3 pages long, 1 page long, however long it takes you. And this is the research. So this is when you explain to me, the examiner, and to anyone who's reading it, what you needed to find out at the start, okay? So what were you investigating? What did you need to know before you could even do this project, okay? So questions I needed to find answers to. Okay, you're then into the investigation part of your project. So this is where you're discussing all that you've completed, all of the different types of ways you have used skills to find out different things, different aspects. Remember, you need to have 3 in it at least, all right? 3 different types of maths, well explained and well linked as to why, if I find out the speed, distance and time of this will help me find out such and such. If I use statistics on this part, this will help me find out. And so you're explaining why you're using the maths all of the time. So this is the bulk of your project here. Okay, and bulk just means, there's quite a lot in this point here. Okay, and conclusion and evaluations is the last part to this, all right? So conclusion and evaluations, you're going to be discussing, I suppose, about all of the things that you found out, all of the things that you now know. An evaluation is where you discuss, well, was that what I thought it would be? And if not, why not? Okay, and so you're discussing, what do these findings actually mean, or how will this influence me in the future? Now, so there are lots of CBAs that people have done throughout the years, okay? And I've created a Padlet. This is the website here. And what you can do on this Padlet is you can actually go in and you can see different ones. So if you click into them, you'll be able to see different ones. So I can skip on down. Let's have a look at this one. How much would it cost to go to a Chelsea match? Okay, so you can see this student did it on Microsoft Word, and you can go through all of this student's work. Okay, you can see there's their lovely contents page, the problem, okay, so what they said they were going to do, assumptions, so what they thought would be true, so we spoke about that before, steps I took, predictions, so you can see lots of work put into this. Then they look at the transport, the ferry, so huge amount of work here. They looked at accommodation, lots of work there, Airbnb, match day tickets. I suppose this is all not during COVID, we should remember. They compared different prices. Wow, so look at that. They're comparing the prices, finding which is higher and lower. So that's a different type of maths. Total cost, and then they've got their conclusion and strengths and weaknesses and any changes they would make. Did my answer make sense? So that's all part of the evaluation. So that's all there. So there's loads of different ones there that you can have a look at. Okay, I'm back into it. So some people, can I renovate my room on a budget? So a lot of people do in the bedroom one, I know. Redesigning my garden, let's have a look at that one. So obviously there's no results here, so you don't know how these students got on, but it'll give you a fair idea of what is expected at this level, all right? But you know, it's definitely something that we want you to go off and do your best on and kind of come back. So a couple of people asked me, how do I submit it? So we'll be submitting it, I'll open the submissions on Thursday, and you can submit it on Thursday, Friday, Saturday or Sunday. We would prefer, obviously, if there's a hard copy of it, so if you can print it off, that would be brilliant, and then submit it that way as well. So it's just a bit slow here, but you can see it's coming up now there for me. So this one is redesigning my garden. We've got the problem, so they've cleared the assumptions. So a lot of students putting in these. So these are things that they assume to be true. So obviously you can't go investigate absolutely everything, okay? So the assumptions are that this student has permission from their parents to do up the back garden, that there is a budget, obviously, to do it, and that you can see there that they have access to free soil. So there's some things that they're just assuming. So steps I took, generating possible layouts. So you can see again how this student has drawn the diagram and put it in. So that's how I would recommend people do. Keys, really important here. You know, if you have like different diagrams that you explain what each part is. Like look at the work that this student has put into that diagram. You know, huge amount, definitely. They've found out area and volume. They've looked at different ways of designing it. They've analysed it. Then they've gone, so that might be one of their first bits of maths. The second, now they've gone into climate, they're going into temperatures. You can see they've checked met airn. They've done, so okay, so now they're into their third bit of maths, is where they're doing their bar charts and their line graphs. Again, they've gone and done these charts by hand and submitted them in. So that's definitely how they have to be completed. So, you know, plants, then they've gone and done some research on the different plants, the heights that these plants could grow. So huge amount of work here by this student. So you can look at any of those ones in the Padlets, go through them. Some of them are great, some of them are not so great, but it gives you an idea of, I suppose, the work that is given up, and I suppose how you're all going to be graded, okay? So hopefully that answers a lot of questions that you have. Now, so we will continue to learn remotely this week. You're continuing just on your CBA, so you have nothing else to be doing, only working on this CBA. Remember, it is part of your junior cert, so it is of huge importance. And you can click into any of these, go through them. Now, you can see the bedroom makeover, the dog walk, and the making donuts. These ones are all from the NCCA ones. So these are all up on the national curriculum websites. And so these were all in line with expectations. And the cheetah one, which I showed you before we broke up for Easter, that one was the only one that was above expectations. And obviously the other ones, I don't have any marks on them because that wouldn't be very fair. But you can see the different types of student work there, you know, the ones on the cars, if you're interested in that. Whatever you're interested in, whatever one might be a little bit similar to the one you're doing, have a look at it and see what other ways you can make your CBA just that more bit special. Okay, so I suppose depending on the year that we're in, if we are to this currently, we are 2021. So the deadline opens on Thursday. So you can submit your work on Thursday. As I said, you can do it in Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint, Keynote, whatever way you want. All right, it doesn't matter, and whatever way is easiest to you. But what I would say is when you complete it, if you could save as a PDF. Okay, so save it as a PDF and submit it then to the portal. I'll create an assignment section on Schoology. So if you can upload it as a PDF there. If you can print off a hard copy, that would be brilliant, and submit a hard copy as well into class. That would be brilliant. Then there's just something that you guys need to sign, say that they've been submitted. It will close on Sunday evening, and then from Monday onwards next week we will be continuing with the course. So I hope I've answered all of the questions that people needed to know. There's lots of different ones you can look at there, get yourself some good ideas, and get the brains flowing. But you have today, which is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then obviously we don't have maths on Friday. And you'll have submitted it by Sunday evening. So I'm going to close it at 9 p.m. on Sunday evening, okay? So if it's in, it's in. If it's not, it's not. But again, this is part of your junior cert, and this is definitely something everyone can do really well in.